Snob without my hat. Let me check that for you.
I shall see at the window. Unbelievable touch the kid. Okay, it works. Shall we get this shit started? Okay, prvo idem ja vam pozdrav na srpskom, zdravo dobrodošli, hvala svima što ste došli u tolikom broju. Sad krećemo na engleski. Would you kindly introduce yourself to people?
Hello players, I'm ThatAnimeSnob from Greece. I've been watching anime for almost 3 decades now, and I have seen them slowly crawling down into the ship of today, mostly my pondering, lollies, cute girls doing good things and all that shit. I like that, because you're modern fans, you don't understand how things were 3 years ago, much less 30 years ago when I was a fan.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes on before that, because animation in general started in the early 20th century. So begin this history of anime throughout the years, how they evolved, because the more you know about the medium, the more you can appreciate what we have today, and much better. How much better things were in the retro times, which I will always put forward to. So,
okay, shall we begin?
What?
Shall we begin with the lecture?
Yes, of course.
Okay, first slide, right?
No, not yet.
I first should ask you why you're here, right?
I'm here because you paid me money to be here.
Okay. I didn't mean that.
Of course.
Okay, but what's the purpose of your, lecturing here?
Oh yeah. You see, I was sitting my ass in front of my computer as usual. I wasn't doing anything. And then the planners of this whole event said, "Hey man, you've been watching the Chinese cartoons for all these years instead of going outside, getting laid. So they said, why don't you just come along here and talk about a bit of all the stuff you figured out along the years, because unlike most anime fans, you're actually looking forward to things, you're analyzing stuff, and you're always being so snobbish. Can you please explain what you've learned after all these decades of watching that shit?" Sure, I said, why not? I mean, what you think I lost all my hair? Just love some shitty anime, just pull them off after a while. Doesn't worth it. No. So I'm here to save you the time and the pain. Give up all the steal time for watching retro, because those are timeless. Timeless!
You're a hero of anime industry. Okay, so when do we start?
We start right now. Okay. Let's start talking about anime by not talking about anime, because I need to explain the reason we had animation in the first place. Over here you see this, it's a very famous movie from 1902, A Trip to the Moon, one of the first fantasy films ever made. Now you see the background over there, you see a huge cannon, and some mountains, and some clouds, and the moon. It's not really there. This is a painting. It's just an image. They just had it there, they painted it huge, and they had the actors acting in front of it. They did that because it would cost a lot of money. This was just a 10-minute movie or something. Who would be crazy enough to wait an entire huge actual cannon to be built and have the proper moment to have, the mountains and all the other shit in the background? It was too cost-worthy. The reason we have animation is because we had this huge need to save money. And this is the initial reason of why we had this thing. It was saving us money. But then somebody said, hey guys, we can save money even more. What if instead of this huge ass painting, we have a small painting? And in this small painting, even the actors are painted. And this one, move to the next slide, please. And this is the beginning of animation as we know it. These are how cartoons began in anime in the 1920s. Essentially, it had a much smaller canvas to paint on. And the actors, you had no need for actors, maybe even some voice actors, but back then it was still the silent era, but just doing simple stuff. And because everything was just a blob little thing on a small screen, because the canvas was very small, the only thing they were doing was just making fairy tales, because everything looked very crude at those times. Like, what could you possibly do at the time? It was just fairy tales. And even in the West, we had fairy tales. Wait, there's something more. Yes, there is. You'll notice that over here we see some monstrous looking things. Those are Japanese fairy tales. In the West, we are always saying this much more safe stuff. The Japanese people were always free to do occult stuff. This was a very occult fairy tale, by the way. In the West, you are not allowed to show very occult stuff in fairy tales. This is why we were always down to down. The actual fairy tales in the West were much more dark and depressing. But in this country, well, not in America, because when I say the West, I mean America. And in America, things were down to down to be much more kid-friendly and less... America with their guns, they're fooling themselves, and it comes to worse later on with the American dream. We'll get to that eventually. Next slide, please. Now, over here is again not about anime, but I have to explain this too. And it was still a silent era time, and you see here it's Charlie Chaplin from City Lights. And what actors were also constantly saying to themselves is that we have no reason to be afraid of animation, because we are still people, and there's no way they can draw so nicely. The reason we didn't have very human-like characters yet in animation is because it was very hard to have smooth animation. It was very hard to draw a character in a way that's like a blobby thing moving like this. It was very silly. It wasn't feeling alive. And Charlie Chaplin belongs to this slapstick era of cinema where a character using facial expressions would feel very real. It was very easy to convince the audience without any sound, besides some piano playing, that it was real, it was on screen. You couldn't do that with fairy tales. Fairy tales were always looking fake in the broad sense of the thing. They were always seen as fairy tales and nothing more. This changed eventually when, next slide, this guy named Walt Disney came along and said, hey guys, why don't you just film a guy and then paint over him and he will look more human-like on screen? And everybody who was an actual actor in the silent era cinema said, oh fuck, now fuck, this is the end of us. Because eventually, cartoons replaced slapstick comedy, and eventually had the Looney Tunes and stuff replacing all that. But it was eventually Walt Disney which added color, because this is where cartoons and movies began to be color, and threw in extra money on making a movie, because this was the first high-budget animation ever made.
They drew it 5 times from the beginning to the end because Walt Disney wasn't satisfied.
Yeah, he was a perfectionist. This was a very risky project. Nobody knew if it was going to work out. And he threw everything he knew at the time. He tried his best to make it as plausible as possible, even though it was still a fairy tale. It wasn't anything special. But he did eventually prove that cartoons can be taken a bit more seriously, even though they're still, you know, full of talking animals and stuff like that. Which moves us slowly to the next part. In the meantime, Japan couldn't yet afford much money to make them color, but it had plenty of money taken from the military into making military propaganda cartoons. And this is slowly around the time of the Second World War. Yeah, no, this small event where billions of people were suffering all across the world for some reason. And it used those fairy tales to start making its own country to look special than everybody else. For example, Momotaro is one of the most famous fairy tales in Japan. And in this case, it was used to show how we are the good guys, they are the bad guys. And they were openly showing in some of their films, you could see the actual footage from Pearl Harbor. They were showing, you see, we did this, and they had these talking animals, and it was amazing. And these movies, but in particular, you see the dumb Americans, the dumb English friends, oh please surrender. Those awful English, which could never get it right, even though it's 2016 nowadays. They are still not getting it right, although it's been so many years.
Something like Enola Gay, just because.
Yeah. But this is the area where you see that even Japan is throwing a lot of money into making them look pretty, even though it was still not color. Unfortunately, they lost the war, and I believe they lost all the budget, and I believe they lost the economy for 2 decades. So nothing much is happening for the next 20 years until Tetsuan Atom began in 1963. This next guy named Osamu Tezuka. Osamu Tezuka is the guy who was basically living to draw manga and eventually make them into anime. This guy was a machine of production. He loved what he was doing. He was working non-stop. This is just the most famous work he did, because it's also the most deep of his works. If you analyze Tetsuan Atom, you'll find 1,000 things going on in it, which is one I'm going to stick right here, for example. He made other things. He made something about the white eye and something else about a transgender prince, which was actually a princess and whatever. Those people, those shows are not very famous today. Nobody cares about them. They care about this, because this came at a time when in America we had the silver age of superheroes. We had the introduction of Spider-Man, we had the introduction of the Fantastic Four. We had lots of things which are still famous today. And Japan thought that, hey, we can do the same thing. We can have our own superheroes, and we can just copy-paste what Disney was doing to have our own style. And this was the result. Tetsuan Atom. Tetsuan Atom is in a way, you know, Pinocchio meets Superman and speaks Japanese and flies and he's a robot and all that stuff. And it was supposed to be the first part of a huge line of superheroes made in Japan. The problem, though, is that there was no marketing. They couldn't just sell toys back then. Everything they were making was just airing on television, and they were just hoping this would sell. When you by the channels, not by toys as we have today. And this is why, despite all his fame, despite everything he did, the studio Osamu Tezuka was working in went bankrupt. It couldn't support making anime for a long period of time because no money. We're just making this because it's fun, but we're not making money to make the next project. So it went bankrupt, and we had to move to the next phase. Which next phase is slowly a bit the next year, which is not about anime. It's about Kultni. Okay. The reason you know is that something which Japanese people love back then is that they love everything huge stuff, like huge spaceships. And huge battleships, and huge cannons. They love everything that's big, which ironically doesn't come today because they like to make those things small. You know, things. If they fall down, good luck finding them. What is it? I lost it. Buy another one. It's just $10.
Sumo wrestling also.
Yeah. So Godzilla was the trend which began everything, because Godzilla was the movie which said, now we'll make giant things. Forget superheroes, but just make giant shit. Giant stuff. And Godzilla itself is based on the whole concept of sumo, because sumo is like a traditional sport in Japan. It isn't one. It is. And the logic behind sumo is this. It was supposed to imitate a battle amongst gods. Now, nowadays, when we think about the battle of the gods, we think about a space monkey fighting an Egyptian cat or something. But back then, it was about having this huge-ass gods throwing thunderbolts and fireballs and shaking the earth and all that shit, but they didn't have the budget and there was no CGI. So they said, what's the next best thing we can do instead of having, gods using special effects for that shit? And somebody said, hey guys, I know, let's have two very fat guys, practically naked, pushing each other. No one's gonna tell the difference, and that was the origin of sumo. And then thanks to special effects, which were kind of making it look huge, they said, let's have a guy with this rubber suit and bunch of little houses which are supposed to be like the real houses. Yeah, no one's gonna tell the difference, because that was the budget was allowing back then. And before you know it, we had this trend going on of Japanese people loving it, which is huge and causes mass destruction. And this was also very relevant at the time because of the atomic destruction. There was always this fear of being bombed again and again being bombed because of the atomic explosion. They were always afraid of mass destruction because of it. And their country is in general constantly hit by tsunamis and earthquakes. So mass destruction is in their blood. We just expect to happen every 5 o'clock every morning.
They learn to love it in order to live with it.
It's a part of their life now.
Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Stockholm Syndrome.
So while America focused more on having human-sized superheroes, Japan instead focused on having huge things, punching each other, causing mass destruction. But something which the West didn't do for a long time is making actual superhero comics, because themselves were very violent. Didn't do that. It was always Scooby-Doo and his friends and I don't know, some shit for babies. They were always dumbing them down. They were never allowed to show too much destruction. Japan was allowed, they didn't have this restriction, which led to the next trend, which was giant robots. Hey! There was this guy named Gonagai who basically, best guy ever. He introduced everything that's pervert in anime nowadays, thanks to his shows.
He's the definitely before that.
Exactly. He is the inventor of rule of cool in anime. Mazinger Z was technically not the first giant robot show, it was a much older one from the 60s, but nobody cares about it.
Gigantor, right?
Yeah, Gigantor. The Japanese name. But nobody cares about it because it's silly. This is about teenagers piloting robots. That was funny. Yeah. You go inside the robot. This is the joke nowadays. Go inside the robot, Shinji. This is what we gotta do. Here. And he said, hey, you know what? Since we love the Godzilla, since we love stuff blowing up, let's have a giant robot, because we love machinery, because we love battleships and stuff. Let's have a guy go inside the giant robot and fight each other, and have monsters fighting each other and blowing shit up, it's gonna be amazing! Yeah! Rule of cool in a few words. And something you must understand, the original Godzilla and Astro Boy were supposed to be taken much more serious than they eventually became. Petros Malusis was supposed to show a little boy trying to be, instead of being a robot, being treated as a human being. Godzilla was supposed to show the destruction of technology, because Godzilla was supposed to be mutated, blizzard by radiation caused by the atomic explosion. Those were movies with very deep, with very grim, dark elements to them. But the masses didn't want that. They just want giant things blowing shit up. And this is why, what was Astro Boy? A little robot fighting other robots in order to be accepted as a real person. And Godzilla, which was representing anything that Japan was afraid of at that moment. It eventually evolved into giant robots, which was dumb shit, basically. It was punching each other and blowing shit up. I don't care if it's gonna be about some symbolism, I don't care, we don't care about that. It was just dumb fun, and this is why they're technically unforgettable. They were not pretending to be something that they were not. They were very genuine and very true with what they were, even though they were episodic still. They're not exactly a pinnacle of writing or anything. But it was very good for what it was doing, and even today, everybody knows about the shows. Nobody is watching Astro Boy, even though they'll never make it in a few years. You? Well, I grew up watching Astro Boy, but I'm not going to go back to it anytime soon. I'm telling you that. Nobody's watching Gigantor or whatever the other things, because this is the time when the original generation of people who are watching anime in the 60s became teenagers. They used to be kids, they like the kid stuff. Now they're teenagers, we gotta give them teenager stuff. And teenager stuff were about robots with boobs firing boob missiles to each other. It had shit. I mean, if you see the original designs of the monsters in these shows, they were crazy. It was Warhol crazy. You won't believe what kind of imagination Gonagai had in making these robots. They're completely bizarre nowadays. You're not gonna like this. You're not gonna like it if you see it nowadays. It's too schlocky in modern standards. But then again, you see how much robots evolved. They became eventually these CGI tongues moving like this, which is very boring. So at least this was good. Random imagination coming from the minds of someone who was a total pervert. He was promoting perversion. He was just rule of bullshit. Moving to the next one.
Okay.
Okay, now, it wasn't just children watching stuff and then growing up with teenagers and wishing they would see more violent and sexy stuff. It was also some adults who were still remembering the Second World War. And some people know about Japanese people even today. They had this boner for their navy. Their navy was amazing. We had the best navy in the world. Nobody could mess us up with us with our superpower thanks to our navy. And Yamato was their flagship during the Second World War, which sank. So they felt really butthurt about it. So when this other guy, Leiji Matsumoto, had this amazing idea, we will resurrect Yamato, and instead of a battleship in the sea, it will be a space battleship. And it's going to be fighting space Nazis. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Of course, as an atmosphere, it was very grim dark. Very grim dark. It's like, oh man, this Earth is already fucked by radiation, and the aliens are winning. We only have one ship. But it was eventually turned into a rule of cool. It's like, yeah, Japanese people, you lost the war, but now we're going to fight back. We're going to fuck up everybody. At the same time, it was politically correct because eventually they were joking about the Nazis in space, so it was, you know, America could see it because, you know, we were funny at this fascism, even though we were fascists ourselves next time. So it was a double standards using here. Yamato was used for fascism. Okay, let's not kid ourselves. Now we're just turning things around and saying, oh no, we're working for the good guys. Democracy, yeah. No. Sure. So this was the first show for adults, technically, which became famous. Everybody was watching it because it was all patriotism, not during the war, the next generation, but after the war. You say, well, we're the good guys, watch us guys, love us. Move to the next one. Okay. At the same time, it's not like they were making only violent shit and robots and anything was post-apocalyptic. We have nowadays a huge line of series which were technically adaptations of Western novels at the time about orphan children, something like, you know, Heidi or anything that reminds you of, what was the orphan guy? The orphan guy, the orphan kid, everybody knows. Oliver Twist, yeah. Everything that was like Oliver Twist had this huge line of similar stories written around the same time. And Japanese people were there to animate one almost every year. This was the Masterpiece Theater line of series, which was family oriented. It was about, you know, orphan children being raised in the Alps, somewhere in Europe, and facing the hardship of being poor because some Jews could do anything they like. Yeah, it's very manipulative if you think about it. But it was proving that Japan was not only about destruction and book missiles and Godzilla raising and Yamato not being the good guys and all this shit, which is completely manipulative. It could be about family stuff because the writers were not Japanese, get it? They were just providing the animation, they were just adapting shows which were from the West into the screen, which nobody else could do that because even showing depressing stuff like an orphan was too much for the West. We had to bring in Japan to do that. But the thing is, you know, this family stuff, nobody talks about today. Everybody knows them, everybody probably watched a lot, but nobody cares about them. Because again, they're not as violent, they're not as extreme, nobody cares about them. And that's the thing with animes, we all know them nowadays. The more extreme they are, the more violent they are, the more we love them, the more we remember them. They're more memorable when they're violent. You want to have a question? Love what? I don't understand the title.
Belladonna of Sadness.
Oh, Belladonna of Sadness. Oh, okay. I didn't mention that. Okay. Osamu Tezuka made this trilogy of movies which were adult-oriented. He's technically the one who made the first hentai, although it was more artistic than it was sexual. It was in this new French style going at the time, and he wanted to promote art through hedonism and short and all that stuff. And there were many collaborations with France. It's just that these things were not accepted as anything more than film or arts and stuff. And people back then, they accepted them as art, but not many people appreciate art. And this is why, although they're pretty look at, nobody's gonna go watch them, especially with his family. And you must understand that the audience was always, up until then, mostly teenagers and their parents. It wasn't about arts people and the intellectuals go and say, oh yeah, her book is drawn so nicely, it reminds me of the metaphysical concepts of Picasso and shit like that. No. I mean, it's very ballsy of Osamu Tezuka doing that trilogy of movies, but they didn't work out, and I didn't mention them because they were just, you know, a side note in the grand scheme of things, and they didn't really lead to something else. I didn't read it, so I cannot speak anything about it, and I don't know exactly. That was a blast. That was a blast. It was not the stuff I liked when I watched all of them. It's just that there is nothing you can say about them besides being artsy erotism at that time. Nobody cared about it, so let's just leave it as that. It didn't have the proper audience. Maybe nowadays it has, back then it didn't have, because the audience was still... What? Stop with the psychedelic, yeah. And psychedelic is very hard to be appreciated by the masses. Move to the next one. Now back to the giant robot blowing up shit. Yeah. There was Yamato, which was technically a space opera. There was Mazinger's head in his line of fighting robots. And they were technically two different things. So Tomino, this other guy, said, why don't we just combine both of them? Let's have a space opera with giant robots. Because it's just space. So one just runs together, merge them. And he said, hey, guys, plus continuity. Mind-blowing. Nobody thought about that until then. It was one of the first shows which actually had a plot. Slow, very slow. Every Gundam show, up until then, till now, it was always 50 episodes long. And trust me when I tell you this, no Gundam deserves to be 50 episodes. Although this is one of the most iconic shows ever made, nobody liked it at first. It was too fresh, too new for its time. It was a commercial failure, even though nowadays it's what makes the most cheese. Yeah, it wasn't what they expected to see. It was just combining many things, and it was sort of dramatic for its time. And it's not what people... I mean, the adults wanted to see more cool stuff about the Navy in space, and the kids wanted to see more cool stuff, not the Navy, just the giant robots fighting. It was neither of both. It was more focused on war is bad, this is the mentality of the enemy, and many other stuff which were not appreciated at that time. Again, the plot was very slow. The plot was so ridiculously slow. This should be like half as long as or less. So although this was a pinnacle moment in the age of anime and began as a very, very bad commercial failure, it eventually worked out when they made the sequels, which improved on anything the original one didn't have. It proved that Japan was still learning and was combining new elements into something completely new. In this case, it was very successful. Move to the next one. Now, the 80s! If you remember already now, there were always giant robots, always spaceships, never about people. The characters in these shows, a little bit in Gundam, but not even there entirely, were always like a backseat to the actual plot. It was always about the war, it was always about the action, it was always about the message. It was very rarely about the actual people doing all that shit. This led slowly into the creation of shonen and fighting shonen as we know them nowadays, because we're focused 100% on the characters doing stuff. I mean, yeah, you can say that the World Masterpiece Theater was doing the same thing, but those were family material stuff. They're very basic, like, I'm a cute little girl up in the mountains and doing something there. Okay, who cares about that? Punch it, dudes, and blow the shit up! Yeah! Everybody knows Hokuto up until today because it's exciting. How else was supposed to say this? We don't get to see the low-flying children up in the mountains. We don't see them slashing in half bullies and punk freaks from the 80s. And we still have Mad Max nowadays. It's fucking amazing. It's the best movie I've seen. That's what I want to see. Both of them iliti shit. Yeah, they get on the loon. I don't care. This is what I want to see. Yeah, it's funny. Okay. The funny part is that everybody remembers Dragon Ball mostly from the 80s because this is what everybody keeps copying thereafter. Super goes brrr. But it was Holter again which began everything and it was splendid. I mean it holds up even today, not the sequel. Fuck the sequel, it should have stopped in the first season. And this is where we slowly move from machines into people. Now the fun part is that they couldn't yet accept the fact that people just bleed and drop dead and there's this big blood all around. They had to blow up like ships, like in the previous series. This is why we're still in this transition phase where when somebody dies, he still needs to blow up. Like a robot or a spaceship from the previous series. So it was in the transition period when it was very weird to watch it. All these people just dying and why are they blowing up? Are they full of explosions? Something, no, it's I'm pressing. Something like that. They're pouring it. Oh, I'm pressing this pressure point, they're gonna blow up. Why? Pressure point. Okay. Even then, power levels meant nothing, and this metaphysical shit didn't mean anything, but it was the rule of cool incarnate. This holds up even until today. It's the beginning of fighting shonen to know them. We still watch today, but mostly by copying the Dragon Ball formula, not the Hokuto no Ken formula, because Hokuto no Ken was killing its characters and was not resurrecting them. Okay? If they die, they stay dead. If they blow up, okay? There's not even a corpse to resurrect. So, how can you resurrect someone with a corpse? Logic. what if it's true resurrection, that the knights fell from Dungeons and Dragons? We didn't invent that yet. So, moving to the next one. Now, some of you know about the 80s and what makes them so amazing. It's mostly about the fears people had at that time. I mean, if the 70s and the 60s was mostly about, the bombing of Hiroshima, we're so butthurt right now. The 80s was about the Cold War. Now it was the next generation of people who were not that much familiar. They didn't really care. They didn't experience it that much. It was the new fear of that time, which was the Cold War and the possible Holocaust that could come from a possible nuclear destruction between America and Russia. And this is why Studio Ghibli began, although it's not Studio Ghibli technically, it's Studio Ghibli, began with their line of movies, which was all about the environment. Love the trees, hug them, be nice to nature. If you're not in good nature, it's going to kill you, something. And it was always about this post-apocalyptic setting, which people had survived after nuclear destruction, and they had to find a way to survive and all that stuff. So it's like Hokuto again without the exploding heads. And in movie format. Now technically these movies are very rich in concept, but being movies, they can't exactly expand too much of what they could be. You have to read the manga, it's like, you always need to read the manga. They always take the best parts in, the manga is like this and the movie is like this, so you have to read the actual thing to get the full picture of what's going on. So, these movies are good, they're still holding up because, what is it? It didn't matter. That's the thing. Nobody cares about women in Japan. Nobody. Yeah, there were many shoujo in the 70s, but who gives a shit? Now we have shoujo high, which sells a lot, but back then, nobody cares. Yeah, you get the special snowflake, thank you very much.
Don't give a shit. Special slayer.
Okay. Yeah, there was a movement about shoujo, they were trying to promote shoujo. Yeah. There was a movement about trying to promote many series to girls, but girls were always much fewer than boys when it comes to watching anime. They would not get out of the house yet. It was still a bit early. So they didn't have the G's to support the industry, and nobody gave a shit about them eventually. So let's forget the women. Let's just focus on men, horny men, and teenagers who just want to book missiles. And the fears of these movies, which I've pointed out, but read the manga. Move on to the next one. Okay, around the same time, this movie came out, which was what technically brought what anime could have been in the West. This movie is now mostly known as what promoted anime in the West than what it actually is. And just like Nausicaa, you have to read the manga, and then you go home skip that shit in the end, because the manga is so much, the movie is that much. And this was the one of the most high-grossing in budget films of all times back then, and it made shit. Okay, it was a financial failure because you must know something about. Yes, financial failure. The late 80s was the pinnacle of Japanese animation. They had like 6 layers of shading, something which was never happening before that. 6 layers of fucking shading and almost as many frames as an actual movie. This never happened before. They're throwing all this money to make these movies, not just this one, 2 or 3 more I'm just going to mention right now. They looked spectacular, they were amazing. It's just that the audience in the West, again, they preferred live action, and how much money can you make out of something so expensive? They assumed that they would eventually make their money from reselling and re-airing the same movie. But the late 80s also had the end of the Showa era. And this meant a lot to the Japanese people because it led to an economical disaster. What?
Bubble economy.
Yes, this is the economical boom, right here. And immediately right to the economical boom, economical fall. It usually comes together. And the 2 main reasons I can think for why the Japanese people just gave up at this point was A, Osamu Tezuka died, their inspiration for everything died around this time, and second, their emperor died, so this is why they changed the periods of the time. And Japanese people are very butthurt when something happens to their culture, and before you know it, everything fell apart. And because they could no longer promote their shows in movie format, they wanted to create their own Hollywood, and it failed so spectacularly. They didn't have nowadays the budget to move to the next level. And these movies were not making any money. Even up to today, Akira hasn't made that much money. Even though it's spectacular to watch. And Nausicaa was still back in the boom, it made its money. But Akira, holy shit. We all love it and say, but it didn't make any money. But then again, you're thinking about something like other movies which are so good and then they didn't make their money back. What was it? The Zone. The rest of the movie, but that's about. That is in the book. Okay, forget it. Never mind. Move to the next one. This moves us to the terrible, 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 awful, avoided Benedict the Sage era, because this is the other shit he's promoting nowadays. It's the schlock OVA era. Now, because this is the part where you had the videos in our homes, we didn't have to watch it on television, we didn't have to go to the cinema to watch them. Everybody could rent a VCR and put it in here and watch it if he likes. And this was the only way the industry back then could find enough money to support itself. Not to do better stuff, just support itself. The animation was still great, the writing was shit. And when they were typically making 2 or 3 OVAs with pretty nice animation, but the story was all over the place, didn't matter anymore. And they were technically aiming for all the horny, deviant assholes at that time, and this is where the otaku word begins to spread in Japan. And you know, we call them schlock because they had good ideas, but they didn't have the time to develop them. You cannot throw occult shit, you cannot throw demons and tentacles, and all the other shit we have today, and just put it in 2 OVAs of like, what, 1 hour in total? You can't do that. They were just saying, oh, demons, and tentacles, and naked women, and blood, and and then they dance. And you're just left with a blue ball saying, what the fuck comes next? And you never get that. That's the problem with these OVAs. They would never have enough money to go to the 3rd or the 4th OVA. You just watch these and say, well, that was pointless. This is the effect we have nowadays with Mass of Destruction, which the community apparently considers to be the worst anime of all times. Well, those shows were always pretty much like that. Each one of them was always like that.
Exploitation.
Totally. And by the way, at least the only good thing that came out of this mess is how many limitations Japanese people had in showing sex. The reason tentacles existed, as we know nowadays, because they couldn't show the penis. They show a tentacle go inside their vagina, so that makes sense.
Tentacles are okay, yeah.
Tentacles are okay. And who has tentacles apparently? And who has tentacles apparently? Demons? Something from another dimension? Oh, that explains everything. And what we do with demons, we just slaughter them at the end of the second OVA, then we pretend the rest of it doesn't exist. So many of the stereotypes as we know them came to be as we have them nowadays, thanks to that schlock OVA, but most of it's bad. It's a bad after effect. It's the bad stuff, even nowadays. Even nowadays we see them and nobody likes them. It's the bad effect of anime that had the stigma we have up until today. Okay. Move to the next one.
Okay.
Eventually came the mid-90s where the industry began to recuperate, and eventually they had more money to do something they liked. And this begins a different era, the psychological sci-fi era. This was very special because after being all butthurt and depressed, we cannot do anything, not just in anime, like in the economy in general, all the young people couldn't do anything. A very long line of anime were created, which were totally depressing and totally dull to watch nowadays. Grunge, totally grunge, but not schlocky. I must point this out. And they were called the psychological sci-fi era because they were always talking about the bad effects of technology. Because this was the part where everything began to be digital. And people were now beginning to see that huge things were no longer working. They were getting smaller and smaller and smaller, the gadgets we have nowadays. And because of that, they knew that not as many people would be needed to fix those huge things. They would be losing their jobs. And although the economy was recovering, what would be the future for us Japanese people if none of us can find a job even though we have the money? And this was the huge psychological sci-fi era, which was always questioning the purpose of technology. I mean, the 80s were always about technology as well, but it was like bombs, big explosions, love the trees. Nowadays it was a bit more deep than that. It's about the upcoming internet. It was created out of this time. How can the internet affect our lives? How will it bring us together? Will it make us a hive mind? Will it be like bees? Will it promote knowledge to the point where we'll become like gods? Will it be free porn? So, these shows were always questioning how this brave new world will go into, thanks to the internet mostly, and because, yeah, the numbers were becoming smaller, the world was coming closer, the borders were crashing down, and I'm showing you right now, Gost Japanizma, up until now, it's the best cyberpunk series ever created, and it's affected countless of other series that came after it. Nothing can top it because it's very deep. Although it's just a movie, and you read the manga, it's like, this is fun. The movie was very serious. The movie is still the best out of this franchise. What? Another complex was just as serious and wasn't as deep as this one. I mean, individually it was, but one movie it wasn't as dense in thematic purpose. Still good, even though it's technically the same thing. Other shows involve serial experiments lane. Even Neon Genesis belongs to this era because it was deconstructing all the stereotypes of since you get the fucking robot. No, no, holy shit, this is so original. It was a point where people were truly questioning themselves, how can we bring this to the next level without being shocked? And we had the money. Not Neon Genesis, we're still in the very beginning of the recuperation, so they still didn't have the budget level at the end. But everything else was really trying to take themselves seriously. So seriously that now that I'm asking younger people to watch and say, oh man, this is so dark colored, it's so slow and depressing, why am I watching this? And like, nowadays, internet is about playing Warcraft, it's not about wondering if you can become a hive mind or something, so they didn't care about it. So, good ideas, but it didn't work out in the long run. I mean, because the internet didn't end up being what they thought it would be back then, as they imagined it back then. They thought it was with this virus which would take away their humanity and shit like that. Little big robots and dolls. What? They were always saying that, yeah, they were saying that since the creation of conspiracy theories. It's not just new, man. I mean, Area 51, the aliens must keep on saying that shit. It was much older than that, so it's not something new. It's not something new. Move to the next one. You all know that shit. You all know it. I was there. I remember it. So eventually, we stopped liking the present shit. We said, it's something more fun, you know? Like, okay, the internet is here. We can download our anime for free. And what were those free shows which made us all come together as a group? Because before that, I can even say that there were still pockets of anime fans throughout the world. And the internet was still very slow. It wasn't exactly creating sites where everybody could globally come together. Those three shows did that. Those three shows promoted the hive mind for entertainment. And individually don't make the yin that much, even though they had a very big part of our childhood. And my thought life was all. It's just that these three shows with their constant, what will happen next? Will this guy win? What new power up with this other guy gets? It was actually in the same vein as Dragon Ball. It was copy-pasting Dragon Ball to its fullest potential. It was eventually very disappointing in the end because as they went on, that's the problem with fighting show, and the more they go on, the worse they become. You didn't know that. You can still fall for it nowadays. My Hero Academia was shit! So, those three are what began a new era where we would all come together, we would chat like non-children about if Naruto can beat Luffy. And it didn't mean anything, but it was a very good excuse to bring us together without being depressed. The previous generation was all about, and the previous era was all about making us feel depressed. This was about bringing us together, having fun, it was nice. Nobody was complaining about it. Move to the next one. A tail, get it? A tail, Dragon Ball. Okay. And then came this dreaded 2004 era where the schlock times of his awful mid-90s came back. And what was schlocky okay back then became schlocky mainstream on television. When Elfen Light came out, everybody was flopping to it non-stop about how damn it was. And it pissed me off. It was schlock. I hated it. I hated its guts. I had seen enough of VAs to know what was going on, and this was shit. It was the stuff that was promoting boobs and blood. It's deep. No, it's not. No, it's not. And nobody could understand that because even about the other day, we think, I don't know, this idea that because cartoons are just for kids, it has boobs and blood, it's mature. It's for adults. Mature for adults. Okay? It's not. And this is what we got everything. These things are here. This is what we got everything. Now, does anyone in here believe that Elfen Light is a masterpiece? No. I thought so. But back then everybody did, besides me. Why do you think I was banned from half the sites out there? Okay. Now eventually this is what we got a huge trend because it took us like 15 years to realize this is not true and everybody keeps copying this formula ever since saying, they will come to the kill. No. That one won't belong. Oh yeah. There's some boobs and blood. That's not sure nowadays. Of course. Yeah, of course, yeah. Not thematic exploration. The dull shit we are having in the late 90s were more important than this. It was dull to watch, but it was taken so seriously, it was making me think, actually think, not the colonial people, and we have to think about the meaning of life because they keep puppies. Racing off. Next. And then came 2006. Oh no! 2006. Yeah. 2006 changed everything because it was the coming of the Blu-ray era. Blu-ray means more pretty colors! Holy shit, all those colors! We have a full dish of shit to throw in, and extra shit on top of it, and special episodes on top of those shit. And big money! So much money! Holy shit! And this was what began this era, because this was the part where everybody kept saying, as long as it's fancy looking, as long as it's a bit of everything, as long as it's Pizza Hut, and sitting on the Pizza Hut, like, yeah, that's so different. It had a bit of everything, of course, that people loved back then. It was everything people loved in one. It was like high schools full of teenagers, that's us, the audience. It was giant robots about rebellion against the status quo, but evil adults. It had plot continuity, it had cliffhangers, it had people dying and then coming back alive until the second season happened, which they don't get back alive. And everything shit, yeah. Deeper shit. People don't believe me until the day this way was banned from the other half of the sites out there. And at the same year, not going to show it here, also Suzumiya Haruhi came out. The other thing that's become the other trend, you know. Light novels, oh my god. Light novels are the cancer of storytelling. And it became famous next to Haruhi, and you still don't believe it. This is why it was banned from some of the sites I was signing later on. So, Gold Gears and Haruhi began this new trend about light novels, random shit. A bit of everything doesn't really matter if it makes any sense in the end. At least we had fun. At least we took a tour bus and went to this high school where Haruhi was doing her show as supposed to, but they actually have tours, but now they're going to the Moish at the schools they're supposed to be based on. I'm so engaged. Let's dance the Haruhi dance. Yeah, that's so engaging. Yeah, see, this is where we enter the first world problems era, where I'm bored, guys. I don't know what to do with my life. Cute girls, let's dance. That sort of thing. It's like boredom becomes the ultimate problem in our lives. It used to be, you know, the atomic explosions. It used to be about the internet bringing us all into the hive mind. Now it's I'm bored, cute girls to make my miserable life feel more full. Especially in Japan, where, you know, they're working all day long and they don't get paid that much and they don't have any income. So it just gives some excuse. And this is where I were always about escape. They were always about escape. But this became over. This went to the next level. It's over escapism. And I hate it because I was watching this web. I didn't know. It's boring. And I was watching giant robots blowing up shit because it's exciting. This is the exact opposite. I'm living in a village and I'm watching cute girls doing fucking nothing. They're just sitting at the table, drinking tea, playing shit. And it's supposed to be like deep and relaxing. My life is only relaxing. I'm watching tomatoes all day long. I don't need to see more relaxing shit. Of course, this is completely opposite in Japan, which is like, the stress of high school. The adults don't understand me. I'm so deep, but they don't understand me. I'm gonna cut my wrists right now. Because they don't understand me. Good girls, this show saved my life. I have read so many shows about this. In fact, I watched this show that saved my life because I was depressed and my life had no meaning, but I watched this one, it saved my life. Get alive! Which one? Yeah, it's the same kind of shit. Yeah, the same problem. So yeah, it's spread out. The bro is in the best. Multicolors, I'm a pony. Did you bro? I'm teaching you right now. If you let this bro, it's my ex-nemesis, This is where I started to hate anime. Before that, I was tolerating them. I was okay with it, but nowadays, we had 10 years of pretty much nothing going on. It's like, okay, stuff came out, they were sometimes good, like the remake of Fullmetal Alchemist, the remake of Space Battleship Yamato, the remake of JoJo, remakes of stuff that was watching already from the 80s. Shit! It's all about remakes, it's not about something new. What is new? And it's considered to be truly good. You can say, oh, God, psychopaths. Fuck you! Or butcher sucks dick! Yeah, we make out the money, it's good. Yeah, what? We're done now, okay. Since I have nothing else to say besides that, I can explain. Okay, there was this time slot called the Roriconfana time slot, which was putting all this Josei series. It's the most famous time slot is promoting series towards women, adult women. Not shoujo for girls and stuff like that. And it did lots of series which were, you know, talking about taboos, what's transgenderism, what's what is it about? You know, the transgender stuff. What it means to do this and that and the other thing through a way that breaks taboos, because apparently middle-aged housewives have nothing better to do than just gossip about such things. And I used to like them while they were just addressing those topics, but as a whole they have the same problem, like 11 episodes, and you have such a taboo theme, and it's very slow, because it's trying to be slice of life, and slice of life by itself is like, almost nothing happens in every episode. You're watching 11 episodes and then it ends, and how much thematic exploration do we have? There was a show, what was it, number 6 or something? About bees? About bees and 2 gays, spending 10 of those 11 episodes kissing around playing Romeo and Juliet instead of facing the fucking killer bees. And then it ends and says, well, what was the point of this? What was the point of this? It's the problem with it.
No, the bees! No, the bees!
The gay is the point! That's the whole thing! No, Italian American is exploring taboos and became gay shit. And I'm sorry you ladies, but up until today, the only promotion they're giving towards women is making Sean and I through sports! I have mentioned this too. Sports used to be about little kids playing football. It used to be about adult women playing tennis. You know what I mean, right? Nowadays, it's Otona games about one blonde girl in the middle and a bunch of cardboards around her being date me. It's about sports. It's not about sports. In the same way, K-On is not about playing music. You see, that's the thing. It all became about character types. It's not about the actual stuff. And the story can be about a trip to the moon, and we're just gonna talk about which one you wanna take, shipping wars and shit. You don't care about anything else, and the main character is always this blunt self-insert. It can be like a blunt boy, which can be anyone, the light novel character, which can be anyone and no one at the same time. It can be this blonde girl, which can be also anyone, like the average girl from the Twilight effect. You don't know. I don't know who want to be in life, and I want to find the romance. Oh, werewolves and vampires and shit, and there was Sparkle. But yeah, the Sparkle, we have Blu-ray technology. We can do that! So it's gonna sell!
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan! You see? That's the thing why I don't like anime anymore since 2006 mostly. Nowadays it's just like, why am I still doing this? Because they're paying to come here and talk about it. So, eventually it came down to this big problem. It's all about escapism, it's all about fancy things, it's not about the show itself. You're not just watching and saying, this show is about the thing which gets explored. This ended up becoming about any fetish you have in mind being thrown inside there as an excuse. Okay? We have just excuses, and then cute girls doing shit, pretty boys doing shit, and stuff doing shit, and then they say, what was the point of it? The shipping wars, the masturbation, the doujins.
And something about swimming.
Eventually, I take out my clothes and swim. For example, Kyoto Animation. We all know them as a Moe studio doing stuff all the time. They're always doing stuff. It was there, right?
No. I figured out, yeah, I should turn it.
Okay, I moved it to a spot. And that's it. And you know about Kyoto Animation, they keep on saying that it has the best animation of all studios. It's true, it's true. So fluent, they feel their hands. Like shut sometimes. There might be some racing or something.
It's artistic, we don't understand that. It's too high growth for us.
It's not the visuals that make something deep. It's what they do with the visuals, okay? And the visuals is more than gradient hair. I even saw that one, gradient hair. They start from pink and then become yellow. Slow, gradient shit. It used to like 5 layers of different shade in the 80s. They actually work with their hands. Now it's like rainbows and everywhere. It's like, what am I watching? These are like sweets when I eat them. You don't want to sit there and watch this shit. And I must say this too. Digital animation is way brighter than hand-drawn animation because, you know, the color is not, you know, actual pastel colors at all. It's made from your computer. It's all bright. And even the darkest shade looks bright. And it's, you know, for us old style fans, it's like, oh, my eyes are hurting right now. Because we not see it. It's very bright to our eyes. We don't see like the person.
Anime speed.
Yeah, more simplistic, another thing. way more simplistic facial designs. It's like one round head, two round eyes, barely this line for a mouth or a nose, and we call this a moist shit something. Yeah, it's a character. We can imagine it being anywhere we like, guys. We can have an actor playing this moist shit. It's going to be anyone we like. Because we can say, but you have something like Genshiro from Popular Games, you cannot put any actor you would like to play Genshiro. You will have some real boss guy with specific facial expressions. Yeah, something like that. They actually had the live action. Yeah, exactly. They actually had a live action movie of Popular Games. It's not talking about it. It doesn't exist. Like it's a game anime.
It did have an existence.
Never existed.
Watched it.
Yeah.
Survived it.
Survived it. And now let's move to the recent trends we have in escapism. Starting with this bullshit! What were people saying when it came out? What were people saying? Let me hear you say it!
Heresy! Sacrilege!
My wife is the most female character ever made! She fights by herself! She was cooking 9 out of 10 scenes she was in it! This protagonist is skewed to some shit! By Kean, by A1 Pictures, which almost has the same facial structure in all the protagonists. But so deep, guys, I'm an average gamer, I've just been in everything. Yeah. I'm an average guy who's just a hugger, a best player, I'm a chick magnet. These ABCDFG, I have my own fairy tale what to do, I have ghosts giving special powers. But I'm average, guys! Self-accept with me! And we give this fucking ridiculous stuff in the video game trend, which that's been nowadays, which is always about gamers, because we gotta ponder this new demographic that is very famous thanks to online games. We're trapped in a fictional world, guys, and it's real, but it's fantastic. And we can die, but we still have fun. It can be anything you want! Nobody's gonna make that one. It's not gonna be pondering enough.
Call of Duty is dead.
You know, this is the new evolution of fantasy anime, which I don't like it at all. Fantasy anime used to be about Dungeons and Dragons. I used to play, I was a dungeon master for 5 years. I used to play these games, and it was about dragons and elves and dwarves. No, now it's about hit points and aggro. And what other shit you're using these days? I don't know. DLC and download my avatar with a new special +4 sword and shit.
Sorry, Snob. Mark 10. 10 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. We just been rescheduled.
Fuckers! Okay.
Compress it.
Okay, move to the next one. There's none? Okay, okay, and nowadays we have the final trend which began like 2 seasons ago. The all-known time resets. Time resets, guys. It's so deep. I keep on hearing that with the raised and now with raise 0. Oh, guys. My button fell off. I'm getting flat. It's okay, I'm gonna pick it up later on. Okay. This new trend, I hate it too, because it's about, guys, it's suffering, guys. You suffer again and again and again. And I can say months and months can become everything. There are times that bullshit for homework. I'm suffering all the time, you guys. Suffering, suffering. I can do this infinite times until I succeed. The tension is so high. But I keep on saying, no, it matters because every time you fail, you have to experience the same pain. And the person you fail to save is dead again. And you have to experience it again. Who gives a shit? After 1,000 times, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is so difficult provoking because there's alternate dimensions. Like, what if this and what if that? This is Dujin. We can't canon, okay? Dujin becomes canon. Because what if this, what if that? I hate it. I hate it terrible. And it's the new trend of the track the video game. Eventually they merged them with zero, track the video game and time resets. And I don't like it at all. And this is where we are right now. Industry says, well, we're making more money every year, so it's better than what was last year. Because money is the only thing that matters. And then these polls will say, the most popular character of this year, the most popular character of that season. Because that's the only thing that matters, right? It couldn't be anything else. And this is why I'm going to stop right here, since I don't have enough time, we'll go on for half an hour, and tell you that other good, they have their bad, they have their good, mostly bad nowadays. You have to have critical mind to tell what is shit and what is good. And you can do that by watching my videos, and also by thinking for yourselves, by having these standards. It's not just, oh, it looks pretty, as Daniel says. It's gimmicks. You must know the difference between theme exploration and gimmicks. Gimmicks don't mean anything. They're just mechanics thrown in there to purposely reset and recycle something. Stay away from gimmicks, stay away from fetishes. You're not defining a show by, let's say, euphonium. Everybody said, oh, it's so different, thought-provoking as a coming of age. And eventually, as soon as it was over, everybody was just talking about the repairing. That's the only thing that stayed behind the show. Everybody just talks about the repairing. This is the only thing we can remember nowadays. It's the fetishes. When the thing is so dull, you only remember the fetishes. This is awful. You wanna be taken more seriously as anime fans in the world? Well, let us stop doing that. Maybe, perhaps, we want to be taken more seriously. We have this concept. Yeah, we dress around with our cosplays, and we have Naruto's and Luffy's and whatever dresses. I said that's some Attack on Titan cosplay downstairs. We have to take it a bit more seriously. We're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that as long as we say we like it for the fetishes. Because you can hear it's shit, but I like it because loads. If you want to have it that way, don't complain if people dislike you for watching anime, okay? Just say it. And don't complain when there are like tens of thousands of shoutings in Japan right now because they can't face the real world because that's the only shit they're watching nowadays. Just say it. This was the evolution of anime. This is where we are right now. You can change it with your mind, what that noise, with your mentality by not supporting that shit, but support the good shit. The more we support the good shit, we're gonna get more good shit. The more we support the bad shit, we get more bad shit. And I know they don't mostly care about what happens in Japan, not what we do. It's mostly about Japan. But even we are biased abroad. Even we matter. The more there are of us, the more we matter. So keep that in mind. That was the history of anime. I was ThatAnimeSnob, and my bald head says goodbye. And now you can get it.
Svako predavanje, ne? Zašto ja ću održati jedno, pa čisto znam da ja ne